Welcome to the totally real new chapter for Dead by Daylight. Feel the desperation and struggle of man with the shallow hearts trapped. And bear the horrid cold of the frost-touched ground. A twisted abomination of Helena Bay, Alaska. It's a shallow, watery grave that surrounds this faded memory, scattered and splintered with ships who bore witness to the madman's curse. The wreckage of ships are maze-like in shape, chaotic and scattered, while the sideline, a small diner on the docks, is frosted over and melted into a singular area filled with a hazy fog. The new killer is the Sunken. A young man named Jack Tiller once sought out his calling in a world that was very unforgiving to many, and he found himself as a ship hand on a vessel called the Master. Under the guidance of Captain James Rainier, he served faithfully for years with little success at finding his passion and true calling. One night at sea, many of the crew became ill, feverish, and mad. In his dreams, Jack witnessed a voice calling to him, beckoning and praising his mind and devotion. He was told of a paradise just for him, and those he deemed worthy, where the land was rich and the waters were clean. Upon waking, a crow nested next to his cot, staring back at him and leaving nothing but a feather. He took this as a sign and acted on it. In his path to overtake the Mastery, his charisma allowed the surviving crew from the illness to overthrow Rainier, despite their long friendship, following Jack's ideal paradise by preparing for months at sea. When the high of the journey faded, the crew turned on Jack as he led them into cold, chilled lands. They battered and broken, ripping his flesh and body to shreds as he attempted to guard himself. Barely alive, bleeding across the deck, they took his belongings and threw him overboard with them, leaving him to his paradise. The Mastery never returned, and the legend says the ship still haunts the waters near Jack's grave, acting as a ward to protect him from the madness that he was instilled with. The Sunken's power is madman's malice. The Sunken is gifted with the ability to summon a thick fog, enveloping himself and morphing into this sinister form. Survivors within this fog have a reduced visual awareness and are unable to tell his exact position within the fog, rendering them clueless if they are truly being hunted by him or merely caught in a hunt for another. While in this sinister fog form, he is faster and more aware of the enemies around him. While unable to attack, he can swiftly return to his physical state, able to emerge from the mist like a devil out of hell. The Sunken comes with 3 totally real new curves. Burden of greed. The betrayal of his crew and the few he could trust left him selfish and cruel to those trying to get an edge on him. Once a trial begins, survivors are unable to use their items for a period of time. Any survivors carrying items at any point in the match feel the looming pressure of the killer and are slightly hindered by their burden. Dead weight. You learn to make an example of these survivors, showing them how slow death by your hands can be. Survivors who are down by your basic attack become gutted, unable to recover above a lower threshold than normal. When a survivor is healed from the dying state, they become your obsession and cannot be healed completely for a short duration, granting them the broken status effect. Inescapable. Survivors cannot evade you for long, and you will show them the lengths you go to ensure your paradise remains pure and untainted. Survivors who escape your pursuit grant a single token, and each token further increases your ability. For each token you recover from successful hits, move faster while hunting for a new target chase, and your terror radius lowers in size to allow you your advantage over unaware survivors. The new survivor is Hunter Dyatlov. A troubled man, once his upbringing was plagued by a father known for his troublesome antics and public perception in the city of Helena Bay. Children at the schoolyard and in his home pushing him around, even the adults were on his side, but he pushed back regardless. They cultivated this rude, rash man who got wrapped up in the wrong crowd. Eventually he served time for deeds he would later regret. While locked away for the short time that he was, he found himself a better man, distancing himself from his identity that his father put upon himself and the people of his hometown. He had nowhere else to go, so he returned to Helena Bay afterward, and he was met with the same city that he had always known. People mocked him, berated him, and insulted him, stereotyping his surname with mock accents, despite Connor himself holding no known heritage other than the name itself. He still pushed back, but with more controlled temper. With most of his hope lost, he had found himself a job at a local diner, popular among deep-sea fishermen that would stop by. The job was plagued with long work hours and disputed almost weekly over pay with the owner. But it was a living. One morning, after leaving his cheap, barely regulated apartment, he went to prepare the diner for a busy morning. But when he reached the doors in the crack of dawn, it was frozen solid. Looking behind him, he was surprised to find the unfamiliar. The docks were no longer there, but replaced with broken ships and shattered hulls sticking out from the shallow waters. He was no longer in Helena Bay, not his own personal hell. Connor Dyatlov comes with 3 very real perks. Payback. You will not go down without a fight, and you're going to give them all you've got. Every time you are injured by a killer's basic attack, you gain a token. The next time you are stunned or blinded by the killer, or wiggle from their grasp, this perk's tokens are consumed, and for each token consumed this way, it extends the duration of the effect by a small amount. Once the perk has been used in this way, it cannot be used again for a long duration, but the tokens can still be gained while on cooldown. Against all odds. The world is against you, and those are familiar chances, but it will stop at nothing to make you feel as small as it can. That is, however, your advantage. For each negative status effect inflicted upon you, you channel that detriment into determination and focus, gaining a small buff alongside each one. Anytime you would gain a detriment, you see the killer's aura for a few seconds. Self-preservation. There is no reason for you to really aid those around you. At the end of the day, their death does not mean your own, nor should it ever. Whenever a survivor is killed or sacrificed by the killer, for a short time, your aura is not seen by the killer or your fellow survivors, allowing your survival to be solely based on your ability and chance alone. In addition, you cannot be exposed for the duration, and you lose any exposed status effect for the duration if this perk would activate. Equipping this perk increases your chances of becoming the obsession. The duration of this perk is increased slightly if you are the obsession yourself. The circumstances of one's upbringing and journey to discover themselves is a cruel and unforgiving one. Sometimes it brings promising men to madness, and other times it brings terrible men to a better tomorrow. The world is cold to those on all sides, allowing only room for those with stone hearts to prosper, while the passionate and the tortured suffer at the hands of those around them. Feel the terrible cold bite of the Shallow Hearts chapter. Available never, everywhere.